And then I went on a pretty simple 2-mile run and I tore my meniscus. And I came back and my knee was just like blown up like a balloon. So at that point, I started to reevaluate what I was doing. On social media, I saw these results that Functional Patterns was putting out of people not moving well, and then of them like sprinting afterwards and just looking really fluid and happy. It was always something that was different, and so nobody that I knew or even nobody that I followed, even in the fitness industry, was talking about it. And so it was always something that was kind of different. And then whenever I finally kind of needed it, I'd seen these results. I was like, okay, let me take a closer look at this. And it's like, okay, they say they get these results. Well, I was kind of ignoring some of the stuff they were doing before because I felt like, oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. Like, okay, it's here. So I was living in Fort Worth, Texas at the time. So I drove 3 hours south to Austin, Texas, and did a couple sessions there at Functional Patterns, Texas. And I could tell it was the medicine my body needed. So I sold my house in Fort Worth, quit my job, moved down to Austin, and did that to like rehab in my body and then relearn how to train my body.
Welcome back to another episode of Cultivating Change, everyone. I'm your host, Alex Corey, and thank you so much for spending some of your precious time with me. Today's guest is Scott Smith. Scott is the co-founder of the Regenesis Collective here in Asheville, North Carolina, where I am based out of, and he's a functional patterns practitioner along with his partner in business. I was introduced to Scott when I came back from Mexico a couple of months ago. I went to get a massage because my body was highly inflamed and fairly crippled from sitting on a bus for multiple hours a day for about 10 days, my Mexico trip. And my massage therapist friend, as I was describing all of my deep-rooted hip, knee, shoulder pain that had flared up again, and even my postural exercises weren't working quite as well as they normally do, suggested I go see Scott because functional patterns is such a specific training modality and integrated movement form that specializes in chronic joint pain. And as Scott and I were chatting, realized that we had a lot of history in common with almost giving up on a fully embodied and active lifestyle in our late teens and early 20s due to just being in pain all the time, chronic joint pain, and having some serious turning points in our early 20s when we made the decisions that it wasn't possible and it wasn't reasonable for us to be crippled as adults that early, and did whatever we could to get out of pain and get back into enjoying life in a fully embodied fashion. So that's what Scott helps people with now, and we'll go through his journey and his massive success and how he loves helping his clients get back to their lust and thirst for life through functional patterns and fully integrated embodiment practices. Thanks for doing this, Scott.
Of course, Alex. Yeah.
So this is new, right? We're in East Asheville, and if you could just walk people through your introduction. Everyone tends to have their problem they overcame and how they landed in their current career trajectory, how to solve something for themselves first usually, and that's the cultivating change part, and that's the fascinating part for me. So could you walk people through how you found functional patterns?
For sure. Yeah. So for me, it really kind of goes back to 7th grade when I started having knee pain. So I can have a condition called Osgood-Schlatters. So happens a lot to really active, tall, fast-growing people, especially males. And so caused a lot of pain right below the patella tendons or right at the bottom of the knee. And it was moderate to excruciating for like 12 years. It's just like always had it. I had to stop playing sports twice and do physical therapy for it because the pain was so bad. I literally popped like part of my tibia off of the tibia, just pulling on it so much. And when I had to stop, that was just super frustrating.
At what age?
So that was in 7th grade, 14. And then once was freshman year of high school.
Yeah, early.
So yeah, and I like being active and playing sports. Playing basketball is what I love the most, and so it was like, taking the thing that I love the most away from me. Though it hurt to do. I just always played through the pain, and so that's just what I knew to do. So eventually, as I stopped growing, the pain did start to decrease some because the bone was softer or was harder, so it wasn't moving as much. But still had some knee pain and issues. And whenever, whenever I was 24 at the time, I was a certified personal trainer. I'd gotten certified in some trendy methods out there. Thought I knew what I was doing, and then I went on a pretty simple 2-mile run, and I tore my meniscus, and I came back, and my knee was just like blown up like a balloon. So at that point, I started to reevaluate what I was doing. On social media, I saw these results that Functional Patterns was putting out of people not moving well, and then of them like sprinting afterwards and just looking really fluid and happy.
So you knew of them early.
Somewhat. Like it had been like on the, I'd say like the backwaters of social media. Like I would just like see a glimpse, but it was always something that was different, and so nobody that I knew or even nobody that I followed, even in the fitness industry, was talking about it. And so it was always something that was kind of different. And then whenever I finally kind of needed it, I'd seen these results and was like, okay, let me take a closer look at this. And it's like, okay, they say they get these results. Well, I was kind of ignoring some of the stuff they were doing before because I felt like, oh, I don't need this. I don't need this. Like, okay, it's here. So I was living in Fort Worth, Texas at the time. So I drove 3 hours south to Austin, Texas, and did a couple sessions there at Functional Patterns, Texas. And I could tell it was the medicine my body needed. So I sold my house in Fort Worth, quit my job, moved down to Austin, and did that to like rehab in my body, and then relearn how to train my body and get certified in functional patterns, basically like full time outside of working the job I had to finance that. Like that's.
Did you say it was digital marketing or?
Yeah, so like digital marketing sales. Yeah.
So that was an abrupt shift. So what had you seen them alleviate, or what results were you seeing before you decided to do that? Like, what did functional patterns? What were they showing for their testimonial, so to speak?
For sure. Yeah, I vividly remember one. It's funny because some of it I was inspired by these like 70 and 80-year-olds, right? Who they had this video of this old woman. She was like struggling to go up these stairs. It was like clearly at her house, right? They were low stairs, but kind of long, right? And so she was going real slow. And then, that was the before, and then the after. She's like gliding up these stairs, moving. And part of me is like, okay, if someone at that age can make that change with their body, okay, that's interesting. And then seeing other people on like a self-propelled treadmill, like the one that's behind you right there, of people more in their 20s, 30s, who just maybe looked awkward, or things seemed off for them. They had like some back pain or some knee pain, and then watching the way they run, it's one of those things. You just watch it and just like, wow, like that is so smooth, and you can kind of see in their face like how maybe they were wincing before at certain times, and then now it's just like kind of like butter, right? Just and so that, and then even these results, standing posture results for people with like scoliosis, right? Yeah. So those, and just like part of it as well, the results were so wide ranging, and then as well, so I was like, okay, this does a lot for a lot of people.
It's not just a knee thing.
It's not just a knee thing, right? It does a lot for a lot of people, and then I also see the specific result for my situation in this, represented in this population. So that also was like, okay, like that seems like this will work for me. And I didn't know what they did. And the functional patterns, like it's hard to tell online, like because it's so different.
I didn't know. I still don't fully understand. So this might be a good time. You moved down to Austin and started training with that. What is a synopsis of functional patterns, and how is it different than something I would train like primal essential movements, which is basically just the human movements. So like squat, deadlift, push up, pull up, just the full compounds.
So right there specifically is where we'd start. So it's interesting that you call those human movements. So why do you call those human movements?
Because you can't get away from most of them in your day-to-day life.
Okay, you can't
Squatting,
get away from them.
picking things up,
Gotcha.
pulling yourself up.
Gotcha.
Obviously, push up and bench / pull up are more specific, and most people don't need to do those in their day-to-day life. But the compound movements that train the motions and the kinetic change that usually make you a little more adept at moving every day, so to speak. And obviously, those are the broad ones that you can measure and that hit most of the muscle groups, which is why it's so simplistic. And then obviously you build more complexity, but those are the good ones for people to measure usually, so they don't have to, if they don't want to get super specific with like throwing motions or lunging or something like that. But those are the foundation, and then everything gets more interesting.
Yeah.
So what came up when I said that with you?
Yeah. So like that's where a lot of these things like it start going down one path, and the logic makes sense, but at some point it seems to deviate, right? And like the movements that make us human are standing, walking, throwing, running, right? And so like that's what differentiates us, and that's how we move through space. Is we walk, right, and we stand on 2 feet, which is very different from the other creatures in this kingdom that we live in. And so making those the primary things that we orient the training.
I totally agree with walking.
Yes.
Lots of walking emphasis. But for most people won't consider walking training, which is a weird mindset thing. I do totally. That's like the de facto that usually. I was doing a chat with Bill Paravano, knee pain guru, and that's actually apparently how you diffuse tension patterns before they store after doing a hyper specific like a martial art or something like that, where after everything you walk, because your body will actually use that to diffuse tension patterns. So not only is it the best thing for you metabolically and the easiest thing with the least amount of barrier, apparently it diffuses tension patterns too. So totally carry you on the walking.
Well, and the thing about it is it's also not just that say, hey, functional patterns is training built for humans, different than any other type of system, because it prioritizes these things, standing, walking, throwing, and running, that are the foundation of our movement. But it's not like we just stand, we walk, we run, and throw. So we move to improve these things in a way that you can get the results that haven't seen in other systems. And so even, you're talking about, hey, like walking's so good for you. And for most people it is, and so you say the same thing for like sprinting. Like sprinting is going to be the best exercise that you could do. However, if you don't run well, right? If that causes you pain, if things aren't working in your body together, like that's actually probably going to set you back more than it's going to set you forward. So I was just talking with a woman today who was frustrated because when she goes on walks, her knee gets inflamed, right? And it makes things worse. And so she was excited to hear that, maybe it's because of how I'm walking. Because she was thinking that maybe in some ways she was SOL, right? Like, okay, I can't really do anything. But wait, walking is actually not good for me right now. I need to like bring it back and adjust some things and then improve from there. And so it's all built, right? All the training is very integrated, right? Looking at the whole body as a system, and focusing on improving the whole system, the way it moves as well, versus getting fixated on symptoms. So most people who get into functional patterns are motivated by some sort of pain or injury, right? And so ideally, of course, people would get ahead of that, but that's how it is in life, right? One of the things that until the motivation's strong enough, right? So
you need to make the change because it's interfering with your quality of life.
Yes. So
or your current lifestyle.
So so most people get into it for something specific, and it's funny even talking to some of my friends. They're like, "Yeah, what about this?" But like, but I don't have pain, so like I don't need to do that. I'm like,
do it before you have
I'm like, okay. Well, this is also one thing that's very different with functional patterns. You'll see the people who use it, 70, 80-year-old women who had knee replacement and need to, learn how to walk again, right? Or Parkinson's. results of people who are basically stuck in a wheelchair, and then they're standing up and picking things up off a shelf. Like, what on earth? That's crazy. All the way to Olympic athletes, right? Or MMA champions, and seeing that in the how it's an entire way of thinking and looking at the body that can be applied to anyone.
Yeah,
just anyone, and they can see profound changes.
When you got to Austin,
yep.
What did you start noticing in your body when you started, or how long did it take? What was your process with that?
Yeah, so always starting out with an assessment of seeing what's going on with the body, and so from just a postural assessment, learned things like I had a rib cage shift to the left, collapsed right lat, my chest is so it would be like chest rotation right, hip rotation left, collapsed right lat. So as kind of collapsed and twisted and tilted and then compressed through the knees, and these things that I just wasn't even aware of that was happening in my body.
Body is real good at getting through whatever and compensating however it has to get you going,
which is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I love that the body can compensate, right, and can continue to find a way to kind of pick up the slack and continue to move. That generally at some point that's probably going to lead to some sort of issue. So long term, and so saw these things, and then as I was walking, there was just a bunch of jarring in my hips, like my core was just disengaged, so my pelvis and my rib cage were just kind of sliding all over the place, like all these things, and it's like at that time I'm looking at that like, okay, I don't like, what do you do about this, right? Like, how do you make the fundamental changes where a year and a half later I'm hopping on the treadmill and sprinting, and like everything just looks different, like just everything just looks different. And so I think in the first couple sessions, some of the things that really decompressed and straightened out my spine, because also kyphosis as well. So kyphosis, lordosis, right? So a rounding of the upper back, inward curve, right, of the lower back. Had that as well. So
I would call that lower cross and upper cross syndrome.
Okay, kypholordosis is,
or the symptoms you just described. So rounding of your shoulders, this tilting, and then anterior pelvic tilt. So I think NASM calls it lower cross and upper cross syndrome. Okay, but that's a much better phrase for it, so I'll use that.
Yeah. So that's like as far as I understand, like the most specific, like anatomical kind of medical style term for it. So I had that as well. So doing some things to decompress and straighten my spine up. I just felt like I could breathe. Yeah. Like I wasn't even aware, of all this compression. I was kind of feel like there's this weight on my chest, and I'm just getting things more stacked and opening up that rib cage to allow me to breathe. It was like it just literally took a bunch of stress, like my ability to deal with stress, like it just started to change like immediately. And that was one of the biggest things as well, was I was being put in all these really stressful situations and these stressful exercises, and then being coached through it of what adjustments to make and what my body needed, and like feeling what is it, like the good feeling, right? And the feelings are really intense, like really, really intense, and being like, okay, that's what I need. And going through that, my stress response is so different now than before. Like my jaw used to like slide around and go up, like almost like I was chewing gum and sliding around, and I would get into stressful things. And I can share a clip of like that happening.
Pretty sure mine does that too, actually, now that you point that out. It's a weird little tick that I noticed.
And basically it doesn't happen anymore. That was like a stress response.
Is that your body trying to dissipate building tension? What's the purpose of that?
Yeah, that's one of these things where I talk with my clients all the time. I go like, hey, we can go. Some of these things are chicken and egg, right? And so we can.
It doesn't matter if it goes away.
Exactly. Like that's at the end of the day. Like some ways, however you got it, like they're going to do the same things, right? And so it is insightful, definitely. Like for me, and sometimes like, hey, what led to kypho? Some of it being really tall, just a lot of it just kind of bending forward. So that's like part of it. That's not all of it, right? But that's like part of it. And then just other times in my life, where I was like really like bent over for long periods of time. Like, oh, this posture got ingrained in me. Okay. And so then having that awareness as then I, you know, outside of the training sessions, notice how I'm holding my body, how I'm adjusting, how I'm literally how I'm washing the dishes, how I'm brushing my teeth, because the sinks feel low.
I was going
to
to say sinks and phones are the times when I notice it. My lower back will usually signal it first.
Yeah.
I'm barking too much. So it's this for washing dishes and doing a phone. And thankfully I've gotten better at it, but it doesn't take long. Like you're in that position for minutes at a time without noticing it until something will start itching at you. Over years.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah. So just noticing things like that. So during my first couple sessions, just having some freedom of breath that I hadn't experienced. And it just felt like it was igniting or reigniting like this kind of fire inside me, where in some ways I'd kind of given up. I'd had this pain for so long. I was, 24. I was like just becoming an adult, and I tore my meniscus. So now it was in some ways worse than it had ever been. And I was like, is this just it? Like, am I not going to be able to be active, to go hiking, to live in a place like Asheville where I go chase waterfalls and just jump in and without worry. And that was a big part of why I was willing to completely uproot my life for it, is because I was like, okay, ended up like for my testimonial, time, it was like a year and a half about. So some of the results happened faster than that. That's just whenever we documented it, And so I was like, okay, take a year and a half of my life to like rebuild, relearn. And then it gives me 70 years, right? Like ROI.
It's pretty great ROI.
And so of like being able to do the things that I want to do. And I just knew I had to. Like for me, it was a non-negotiable. People, my parents, my girlfriend at the time, I don't think anyone really understood it, but that it wasn't about them. Like, it was about what I needed. Yeah. But just like having this where I was just kind of down and out, and just like, maybe this is just it. Maybe I can't be active. And that's what I love most for like the rest of my life. And I just didn't want to accept that, but I couldn't. So I was looking for something that would give me the path, right? And from everything I saw, I feel like I'm at least aware of basically every method. And if I've not tried, like basically every method out there, and the results I got with FP, completely life changing. I credit it with giving me my life back, like just to have just to live, like simple thing, like literally just the simple
enjoy living.
Exactly. Right. And so the impact it made in my life immediately, and then especially long term, has just been just absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. Middle school and high school, I was wearing massive knee braces because I played tennis since I was 5, and then picked up cross country in middle school and continued playing tennis. And both those things, especially if you don't know how to run properly, and no one teaches you how to run in shoes properly because you kind of can't.
Right.
So now
you got that whole thing too.
Barefoot thing. So I blew my knees out. I had to wear huge knee braces. Right. I was 17. When I got into college, I basically wasn't active because it wasn't worth the pain, frustration, hassle, lack of range of motion, just everything around it. And I had the same thing. I was like, wait, I'm in my early 20s. This can't be right. This can't be some people will be like, enjoy it while it lasts, and then you'll get old. And I don't subscribe to that.
No, that's not what I want.
Mom gave me Born to Run. And that was the intro where I was like, oh, maybe I'm just doing everything wrong. So tried that. That got rid of... It's pretty dramatic whenever you have to wear 2 huge knee braces for years in every race and still have pain. And then you just start retraining yourself on how to walk and then run in minimalist shoes. Yeah. And you're like, this can't do anything. Like, it's just this much something. And then it does. Yeah. Like, okay, what else am I not doing functionally correct to what my body is expecting that will dramatically change the way I am able to enjoy life?
Totally.
And it was basically everything.
Yeah.
But running was the kicker for me because that is my not a whole lot of things that feel like running through the woods
Oh, totally.
barefoot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just, or on a beach,
Yeah.
just like ecstasy almost.
Yeah, that freedom,
Freedom.
like, and that it's, you know, kind of viewing the sprint as like the fullest expression of like being human in some ways. Like it's the fullest expression of human movement for
Right.
sure. I mean, there's other things that look like a lot cooler,
Yeah.
right? But it's not like, I mean, they're humans doing it, but like there's just something about that sprinting that just like you just feel it, and
Everything turns on.
yeah,
Yeah, all
Yeah.
of your adaptive stress hormones, your heart rate, you lose track of anything you were thinking about prior.
Right.
Like ultimate dialed in focus flow stress.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a trip. Can't be done for that long, but
Right.
yeah, it's a good reset. If you're having it's the only thing that will get me out of an anxiety attack, and I haven't had one in a while, or a panic attack.
Right.
Just sprinting. Same thing as ice bath, right? It's like your body does not have a chance to worry about anything else if you're
Right.
full on running.
Yeah.
Yeah, your adrenaline kicks up and gets you out of that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's one of those things as well of like, it's been definitely a big process for me of like learning to deal with stress. Is I definitely used to have, I mean, I used to get panic attacks, and you know, at one point I was put on SSRIs, and I took those for a little bit, but I stopped taking them because I just something in me knew that it just wasn't solving the root cause, but none of my doctors were saying anything about that, of like what it could be. I was doing some counseling, that like doing a little bit, but I just felt like there was something out there. And, you know, even finding that a lot of times what I would do is put more stress on myself in reaction to my stress, right? And so like I did it with like cold brew coffee for a little while, because when you're stressed out, stress feels good,
Right.
When more stress feels good, and so the caffeine from especially cold brew, like real strong stuff, and so I was doing that. I did, you know, like ice baths for a while, and I'll still, you know, I love jumping in cold water, now especially, you know, here in the mountains. But I find that a lot of times that cold water just puts me in a heightened stress state, like ongoing, like that it doesn't.
You don't come back from
that.
it.
I don't actually come
There's
back
no
from
hormetic response,
because it's the body, like the world we live in now is there's so much more stress than there used to be, right? And we're like every day, right? You know, have so many more inputs than, you know, people a generation ago had. And if you go back, it's wild. And so like that's one of those things with I just see it so much like online with like the ice bath is like the solution, and I'm like, I mean, it can help, right? But it's the biggest thing. The question that I ask me these things is like, is it really changing something? Like you can definitely, if you need something right now, right? Totally. Like I understand that everyone, you need to have something when something comes up, and you need to be able to handle it, and that's a tool you have.
Right. Yeah, if it's training, if it's helping you deal with stress better, and you return to baseline quicker from general life things happening because you do that, and it helps you get back to homeostasis faster,
right,
100%.
Right.
But if you become addicted to it, or if it's not transporting you to handling your neurology and your nervous system better day-to-day life, right, is it doing what you want it to?
Right.
Sauna is a little bit nicer because it's a more relaxed state, and it mimics exercise a little more. So it's the same. Your body is having a similar response, and usually you can slowly come out of it.
Right.
Ice bath is definitely an abrupt. I mean, a lot of people do it just to be able to handle something like that.
Right.
But I think like 30 to 45 seconds with like freezing cold is a little better than some people just see how long they can do it. And I'm like, that's a delayed stress response. Now you're just kind of torturing yourself a little bit.
Totally.
But to each their own.
Yeah. And one of the things with that I think about, and we talk about all the time in FP, is like the context of it, right? So like you learn, because with all the exercise and the work that we do, it's like you learn how to move in context, right? To how your shoulder moves in context to your hips, right? And how everything works together that way. And how, you know, if you think about the SAID principle, specific adaptation to an imposed demand, right? And so
Can you say that slower once more?
Yeah. The SAID principle, specific adaptation to an imposed demand.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So if you say like squats are going to get you stronger at running. It's like, maybe, right? That's not actually like, those are different contexts. Yeah. And so you can say that there, but then even, taking that same approach, it's because even the way that looking at the body with FP and thinking about training, everything is completely like reframed the way that I just even look at the world and look at my life. And something like an ice bath, I'm like, okay, is this learning how to, react better to this super intense stress that comes kind of coming out of nowhere? Yeah. Like, is that actually a context that I need to learn in? And so for some people, like, I imagine probably like, people who are in, let's say that, then it goes both ways. Super high stress jobs. Okay, is the more stress good, or maybe they really are learning to adapt? And so it's just one of those things. I at least like people to think about, because I definitely see people who are addicted to the stress of it and aren't actually getting any benefit from something like an ice bath. An ice bath is like an easy one to like pick, right? As well, it's like it's like the cultural biohacking thing right now. So it's an easy one to look at. And that's the same true about so many different behaviors, as well. And so like that's part of it. Is why also I kind of. You heard ice bath. I was like, okay, let's talk about this a bit. It's a behavior.
The said principle. I like principle of specificity from basic personal training, which is your body will adapt to exactly what you ask it to do. Which is why, cross training works to some degree. But if you're running and you want to transition to like mountain biking, like I noticed this. If I run all winter on a treadmill and then get on my bike, and I'm just like, oh, nope, this still sucks. Like, it's just a completely different movement, and you didn't adapt to it. You adapted to running. So you're like cardiovascular, VO2 will carry over through everything. But those muscle chains, like, the body is so efficient, becomes so efficient, and so good at exactly what you ask it to. Yeah, you have to do everything to some degree if you want to keep being efficient at everything.
Totally. Yeah. And at times you'll get trade-offs then, right? Because if you're trying to get efficient at everything, you're basically not. Right. And that's even something I think about in training. And I'll have, people come to me like, I want to do handstands. I'm like, cool. Handstands are fun. They're awesome. Like, they're great. They're cool to do. However, like, you say you have this back pain, right? So let's, at the very least, let's address that, like, to a point where it's gone. It's not coming back. Foreseeable future, they're not going to have any issues, and then we can start talking about some of these other things. And that's, if you want to try something, right? Like, hey, because I like to do it every once in a while. It's like, oh, I haven't done a handstand, even though I used to practice them, right, before I got into FP. I was just gonna go see if I can just throw myself up into one, hold it for a bit, see how it feels. Like, that kind of feels better than it's felt before, and I don't even practice that. Okay, cool. Well, then I'll just I'm not going to keep doing the handstands, because actually it's this other stuff that's translating then, and then again it's like priority. Like, I want to just be able to live my life and move 16 cubic yards of mulch.
Right. That is a good test of a functional movement. Yeah, it's, can you not injure yourself, and can you actually feel efficient at moving 16 yards of cubic mulch? That's everything. If you're there's not many things I can think of that's a good test of all planes of motion, range, mobility, extensibility, other than like mulch. Because there's so much twisting. Squats built in. There's a chance for lower back to get injured everywhere.
Totally. Because there's so much torque and leverage.
And raking. It's a good other way for like core stability. Like, people will notice weird things pop up in their body raking, because you never do that. All those small stabilizing muscles all at once for so long.
So just like learning how to create leverage to make shoveling, because you're going to shovel that long, you want to make it as easy as possible for yourself. Because like loading up the wheelbarrow, moving around the property, unloading it, right? So like, how can I do that with, move as efficiently as possible? Because that's what I want to do. The more efficiently I move, the less energy I use, the more energy I have. Right. And so I've literally felt during FP training sessions that I feel like I'm literally downloading energy, because of I will do something like that feels so, wow, I can now do that. If I do that, it basically frees up energy for me to like blank. And it's such a crazy feeling of literally doing it. Like, I like just feel it
sounds like a dynamic or a moving meditation almost. Like
Yeah.
Qigong and Tai Chi have
Right.
that same, but it's the movements are designed to do that. So
Right.
you're almost expecting it, but
Right.
the more the finding that you can do that when you're
Right.
not intentionally doing it will be way more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the self-discovery part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as well, one thing I definitely appreciate about FP is my background or my college degree as well as in mechanical engineering.
Mm.
And so having like a clear understanding of the mechanics, right, and how much that impacts things, right, and so making things that are things that end up being pretty black and white, right? So like, oh, I don't, to get more energy, I move more efficiently and create better leverage. Okay, cool. Like, okay, I track that, right, logically, and like I definitely understand, this electromagnetic world that we live in, and there are these things about energy that I understand. I understand that I don't understand, right, everything about it. And what I really appreciate is it's to me it's very tangible and clear going through like biomechanics, right, and improving that, and the utility and the value and like the results I get. It's like, and that's to me what keeps me around and keeps me learning and keeps me working with clients this way. It's because it works, right? And at the end of the day, like that's what I care about, right? And so I've spent a lot of money learning a bunch of things that I've literally thrown out the window because they didn't work. And so I'm like, well, okay, I'm willing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do it. And maybe at some point there's something else, right, that's like does all the things like that better. But as system wise, I certainly haven't found it. Yeah.
So we have a ton of different specific machines around. I'll get some clips of these things. But
Yeah.
Are there core specific movements or patterns that you train clients regularly regardless of context, or is it always hyper customizable and problem specific?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So there's like kind of two answers to that. I can take anyone through the same exercise. It can be completely different for each person. So if your spine curves one way and somebody curves the other, the framework of the exercise is going to look the same. Because I can say, hey, we're going to do a standing neutral posture. Well, to get you more aligned, if somebody's twisted the other way, y'all are going to have to do the opposite thing, right, to achieve that. And so there's that as one. And then, so I mean, a lot of it is training contralateral, right? Contralateral reciprocation. So left leg goes forward, right arm goes forward, right leg goes back, left leg goes back, right? So it's like when you run, right? And so movements to help build in stability in these patterns. So like a step press, a step back row are super common. If you look on social media, like you'll see those movements pretty frequently. And there are things you can layer and scale and modify in infinite ways. And so those are good ones to go to because then they get the whole body working, right? Especially cross body. And there's so much value to have the right and the left and the right talking to each other. And so getting some of that for a lot of people, even just kind of waking them up a little bit to the way that they're moving and getting the sides talking to each other and, talk about like hemisphere synchronization.
I was going to throw it in there if you did.
That's having that. And then one thing I definitely like to work with people on is a pendulum as well. And so that's going to be different, like the way we create a pendulum is going to be different for what they need, but using that to teach the body rhythm of like a swinging of a weight. And and so basically almost looking like a grandfather clock in some ways of having that big pendulum swinging, because that's going to teach you timing and rhythm. So my rhythm for like dancing or staying on beat has gotten so much better from swinging weights. And I've also gotten stronger, more dynamic, and I can like, it's not a great example here while I'm sitting down. Like I can throw punches that I've never like punched, but that where you can like hear the air in the punch. So I have this elastic recoil. A lot of that comes from swinging, right? And there's even the swing that happens in the leg and in the arms whenever we run. And so it all comes back. But training in some of that elasticity,
Yeah.
right? That recoil into the tissue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it does bridge. Would you say functional patterns, as far as you found, is the modality that bridges and ties movement together? So form of cross training almost. Like, what else could you think of that would improve so many more aspects of your life? Like, people do that with CrossFit is supposed to do that.
Right.
There's so much injury in CrossFit as well.
Yeah. I did CrossFit for a number of years. Yeah.
Yeah. So is this sort of the best that you found for?
Totally. Totally. I will go swimming, and I'm like, when did I get better at swimming? Like what? Like literally, like it's things like that. Even things like there's right up the road from here. There's like a rope swing, and I used to be like. I remember in college at one point I tried to do a rope swing and I like fell off of it. Like I couldn't hold on to it. I couldn't keep my core on. I didn't have like the grip. Like just my upper body, my lower body was like disconnected. I was just floppy. And you'll see that if somebody does a rope swing, like their legs will just drop, right? And then they'll just swing and like see it. It was a failed video, right? On the internet. And literally just doing that, just like my confidence, swinging on the rope swing, getting it, and like going higher, and just having much more ownership of my body and its capabilities, to where I just kind of have more of I can go do that, and it's gonna be, it's gonna work out well. Or a lot of times I still surprise myself at times whenever I'm like trying something. It's like, okay, like
more trust in your body.
Like even so with my knees, like I did some jujitsu, a couple classes, like, okay, this is really cool, I like this. And then I tore my meniscus. I was like, okay, I'm not like, this is not the thing for me. And then I've done a couple months of jujitsu, and I don't think about it. Like, with my knees or my issue, because part of it is I feel the connection, and I feel like it's a lot. I feel more slippery in jujitsu, and I'm 6'5", lanky with super long legs. Like I'm not a quick moving, agile, person. But like with my ability to use my whole body together in jiu-jitsu, like I've had people try and like crank my arm or my leg or something, and of course I'd get got sometimes, but a lot of times I was like surprised, like, nope, like that's not happening, and I could like contort my whole body and just kind of create whatever I needed and use leverage in some way. And I've never trained for jiu-jitsu, but it's like, I know what together feels like in my body, because that's also in jiu-jitsu. The whole point is to try to isolate a body part, isolate a joint, and so.
Oh wow! Yeah, well put. Okay, tell me about the business and Regenesis Collective.
Yeah, so Regenesis Collective is thank you. So you can credit my fiance, soon to be wife, less than a month, Carrie, soon to be Smith, who is also a practitioner, and she's a business owner with me. So really in the business currently, what we're offering is private and group training with functional patterns methodology. So that's the main thing right now that we have, and we're creating more and always expanding. We just added another group class, so we have more of those now. And the vision for it is to have a training space that has basically all the tools that you need to really achieve like next level health. And so, having really good water, definitely be a part of that. Having things like saunas, having access to body work, potentially like acupuncture or different things, that all these things that are integrated, health, wellness, fitness, working together. And then as well, even like local food, right? And just understanding how all these different pieces, right, play together to, have, a regenesis to regenerate, right? In college, I was a huge degenerate, right? And so I spent a lot of time not trying to, work to be a regenerate, right? And I still notice that I have some degenerative tendencies, and I've certainly found that it's so much easier to regenerate whenever you're around other people doing the same, or having somebody else who's who's farther along the path and knows more about what it takes in whatever kind of their modality of that is. Because in the general culture, there's so much, like it's easy just to fall back into, right, just the general standard American way of living.
Default mode network.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's so easy to
It's
do.
so pervasive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the big things, as well as just letting people know, hey, there's this other way of living. You're probably doing it some. You probably want to do it more, and it's not easy to do alone.
Right.
It's really hard to do without a community, to do without a support network, to do without a place to go, to do without somebody there to guide you, right? And and also without understanding what it takes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have clarity, right, on what it takes to really make these changes, how long it might take, the type of support that they might need, and the type of like ups and downs that may come. And if they're going through for the first time trying to do this, they're not going to have the experience, and if they're not expecting these things and don't know it's going to be part of it, like they'll sometimes just give up.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know. I didn't realize this was going to be hard, or like I was going to have to make this decision. It's like, and so just kind of creating that blueprint that, not say that Carrie and I have it all figured out, right? That's part of it as well. Like, hey, collective, like we want other people like here to be part of this. Like, we've got our modalities that we bring, and the kind of our lifestyle as well. So like Carrie and I, don't drink, really don't do any drugs, and it's like the kind of that sober lifestyle, and having that be like, hey, this is out there. This is something people do, and having this space to come around what I would say like our greatest common denominator. It's so funny. I was at a country concert one time with Kevin Fowler. I don't know if you listen to country music, you know who he is. He was on stage bragging about how he has like the Guinness Book of World Records for the most songs with the word beer in the title, right? And I'm here, and I'm in my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas, at Billy Bob's, Texas, world's largest honky tonk. All these, all this fun stuff. I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, like, we're literally uniting right now around our lowest common denominator. Like, this is literally, just like, let's get drunk. Like, this is like the lowest. Yeah, sure, everyone's gonna get, these people can get on board, but it's easy. And so part of it for me, is calling to people and saying, like, hey, let's come together around our greatest common denominator, highest common denominator, like around who we want to be and how we want to show up, right? And having the support to make that easier, because it's not easy.
No, environment's everything. Yeah, accountability, support, environment that's why there are so many collectives now, right? Appalachian Water Collective,
right?
Farming collectives, because you need the community, because you run out of energy very quickly as a lone wolf.
Yeah.
Like most people who are entrepreneurs, myself included, you want to just be accountable to yourself.
Right.
And then what, it take 2 years for me to be like, oh, this is nearly impossible by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's really easy to slip back into old habits, old lifestyle, default mode network, because it's right outside your door. So if you don't have the people, right, you have a compilation of your 5 closest friends. So your intimate community has so much sway over you. So choose your environment very carefully.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah. What is so in 5 years, what do you want the collective to be, so to speak? Or that's probably way too far. In a year, what do you want it to be?
Yeah. So in a year, I suspect we'll have a commercial space that we share with some other, like, body workers, practitioners. We want to have, and some of the things aren't necessarily going to be immediately, right, in that first year, but I have like a little bit of a storefront where, sell like some barefoot shoes, right? I love barefoot shoes. All I wear, all I've worn for a while. And so, have some of those available to people, and, have more community events for sure, and have that in-person expand group classes. Would love to have other, certified functional patterns practitioners as well, like come into the space. Like that's part of our vision. It's like for Carrie and I coming out here, we have to start our own business. Like there's not, if you get certified, I've talked with people about this who are interested in getting certified. I'm like, just so you know, Like, there's only a couple gyms around the world that are functional patterns gyms that are hiring for functional patterns practitioners, right? Who have built up the capacity where they need to bring more people in. So likely you're going to need to go start your own business. And even if you're a trainer at a commercial gym, right, like a normal gym, you're going to have to like do it yourself in some way. And so creating, a space for people who want to do this work, and come and say, great, hey, you want to work? We've got a spot for you. We want it to support you so you can live a life that is, allowing you to be on the same path, right? And so support yourself in a way that's going to allow you to show up right for the clients and grow this just the same way that, that Carrie and I want to. So not sure how that with other practitioners timeline for that, because there's only one entire state of North Carolina.
Jeez, really?
Yeah.
I was like, you guys want to be able to take vacations at some point, I'm assuming.
It's about getting there already. So just went full time at the beginning of the year, and already a little bit past the average I want to keep. But right now, especially getting married, I'm like, bring it on. Let's do the work. Let's bring it in, and also as we're still continuing to build the business, right? Get the name out there more and showcase the results. Because again, at the end of the day, that's what people want is the result, and so that's what want to get them and have a good portfolio.
What's the most common thing people come to you with?
Lately, it's been back pain.
Okay.
I feel like
everybody. Back pain?
Yeah, low back pain. I feel like basically everybody has some low back pain. So I just posted a little something yesterday, and I'll have more of the result coming out soon with a man who's been driving 2 hours to come see me. In 3 months, completely decompressed his back. His back looks so different. He'd experienced low back pain for like 10 to 20 years, nerve pain in his quad for I think at least 5, back pain gone, nerve pain 90% gone. And he had tried like chiropractors. He's a massage therapist himself.
Right.
Like he'd done massage, I can't remember the list of all the things he had done, and hadn't gotten relief or lasting change. And we worked together for 3 months, and he looks and moves like so differently, and just he's so much happier. That's always that's the thing I love to see. Is like it's basically the more people come to see me, the happier person they are, and that is like
vitality comes back. Yeah, low back pain kind of makes everything suck a little more. Yeah, it just drowns out your exuberance for life because it stems into everything. Yeah. If I'm not careful and I don't do postural work in the morning,
right,
or if I'm just, especially get up and drive, like it's gonna be a bad day. My lower back will let me know. 100%. Scoliosis doesn't help at all. So it feels like it compresses so much more quickly. Than if I didn't. But the mornings are non-negotiables for that. Just remind me not hating everything during the day from being in pain.
Get that.
Yeah.
So that's the most common. But I mean, we work with basically all issues: scoliosis, knee pain, shoulder pain. I mean, I can't even like list it all right now. What people come to us with. Look at here some of the myofascial chains because it's all connected. So treating a system like is gonna it just makes fundamental foundational changes in people's bodies and getting them feeling, moving in ways that they didn't know were possible for the most part.
What would you say if to get someone paying attention to what their body felt like for most people, I assume most people at this point, because of the amount of sitting and driving people do, probably rounding of the upper back, maybe a little anterior pelvic tilt, so butt sticking out. What are some easy things that you do or that you recommend people can easily do in the morning just to correct posture a little bit, just to see where they're at and how much better they could feel during their day just from that?
So one of the simplest things is myofascial release. So where you use something like a lacrosse ball or, a hard medicine ball or something like a Theracane, right? And different tools like that. You find an area that's really tight and dense on the body, and you lay on it or apply pressure to it for at least 2 minutes. And you want to be somewhere on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, you can do it all day. 10, freaking out, get me out of here now. About a 6 or a 7, probably around a 6, where it's going to be uncomfortable. but you can breathe through it, and you can allow your body to open up and make changes.
Yep, that's that guy,
So-
and that's an almost cry every time with a crossball.
Yeah, and so a lot of times if you find something that make you grimace or kind of pulling your breath a little bit, that's usually a good sign that the area is wanting some attention. And so for most people who are sitting, and sitting is going to be a lot of hip flexion, and then rounding through here. The upper quad, so just below the hip on the front side of the leg, if you can get a hard medicine ball there, like it's going to be intense, and you might even not feel anything. You might be so locked down and calcified the tissue that it's kind of numb for a bit, and it'll take some time to wake up and bring some sensation back. So that's an easy one. I had a neighbor who did some MFR on his IT band, and he was talking about how he couldn't feel it, he couldn't use it, it was just dead. And then, like, we did it, he left his session, it was like, I can actually feel my leg again. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, like, people just like don't know, and sometimes how simple things can be if you have the right tool. Yeah. So MFR, most people front of the quads, you got to find a lot of stuff there, and otherwise, practicing something like a standing neutral, which if you want to learn about functional patterns, the 10-week course is a fantastic place to start. Has a lot, just so much good information. I go back to it all the time to continue to use and to refresh my memory on how some of these pieces work together. And so standing neutral posture is in there. And just kind of teaching your body how to stand in a way where you're standing and you have your whole body on and supported. For most people, if you do a check-in and you try to stand, you're probably going to feel really tight in the hip flexors in front. You're probably not going to feel your glutes, like your butt supporting you and actually holding you up. And that's the largest muscle in your body. That's the foundation of our movement is the butt. And if your butt's not really working, that's going to, conversations are going to start to come up. So, just even that, my favorite position is a stagger stance in the morning to turn the legs on. So it's like a unilateral, one leg front, one leg back, loading into that front glute, and just finding that, like, all right, there's my glute, and I can take that with me throughout the day.
Right.
So
that's a great piece. Yeah. So almost making that conscious mind-body connection so that you can feel it the rest of the day.
Totally.
In the morning, I always do hip thrusts.
Gotcha.
Slowly and first thing in the morning, and then some sort of external rotation because I have so much forward rotation, just so I can establish that connection with my butt so that it pulls back under, so I can actually feel it, and it supports me because I do have such hard anterior pelvic rotation if I'm not paying attention, and just to get myself aligned. But I wonder, is there a more neutral thing to do that would help your body train that neutral position in the morning, opposed to always, so I'm doing that because I know I compensate the other way. So I'm trying to pull it back. But is that the best thing, or is there a more neutral thing that would be better to do?
So it's like sitting for you?
Or so if someone's doing that, if they're sort of waking up the muscles they know are weak, underactive, or should be centering a little more, is that establishing that connection the best thing, or is there a more full body way to do that, opposed to sort of isolating things they know are weak?
Yeah. So this is, I'd say, like, yes and, because definitely, if you, so if you're rounded through the upper chest, probably releasing, the pec is going to be, really helpful. And then strengthening, sometimes the word strengthening is not the most accurate word, but getting the tissue in, like, the lower trap, in the rhomboids, and the lats to support the shoulder in a nice, open, broad posture without...
I think we went over this last time,
Yeah, without, like, pulling the shoulders all the way back where the shoulder blades are about to touch each other, and without being in that round that most people are. So a lot of times you're using a mirror to see kind of what neutral is.
What neutral should feel like.
And what it should feel like. And that's a process, and it's going to feel awkward. And that's the interesting thing. I had, like, a meme that I showed people about to explain that on basically you're going to feel awkward whenever you're standing more aligned. It's not going to feel straighter to you. It's going to feel like you're tilting off to the side, and it's actually going to be going to be straighter. I mean, it's going to take your body some time to figure out that actually that's what it feels like. And so having a mirror for that. But I mean, so many of like the fixture posture stuff, it's like shoulders down, back, head forward, or tuck the chin, and they look at some of the pieces, but not necessarily how the pieces fit together. And some of it I know it's like simplistic. It's a YouTube tutorial, right? And so that's part of the challenge of some of this advice that people are getting. It's so generic that it's not actually
hyper contextualized is always the best, right? What you need, because you could be going the other way entirely.
In the 10-week course, that's one of the big differences, and it is like, as Natty's going through, it's like it's like if this then that, if this then that, and so people don't always want to take that accountability and learn for themselves what their body needs, but it's their body. It's at the end of the day, it's like up to you if you want to invest in yourself and this body that you're going to live in for your entire life, and if you want to feel better and be stronger and experience cognitive enhancements, decrease your stress, like it's all out there and available to you, and it can take some time to learn and to do. And so I mean that's why I think that FP is growing so much, is because people want help. They want the result, but they want the help with it, because it's not the simplest thing. And I have people with that, like, I've just got this one little thing, like I don't think I need that much help. You told me you've been experiencing that for 10 years, 20 years. Like, you think is it going to be that simple to change? Like, maybe it's a small thing, but it's going to take time. It's likely deeper, and there's other things going on in the body. And so just, especially here in Asheville, it's better than say other places, but also people wanting someone else to fix them, like wanting a doctor to fix you, right? Just like write your prescription, like have them take a magic pill and be done, right?
Externalizing authority,
exactly,
responsibility,
versus like taking responsibility, accountability. Like, oh, I gotta learn, I gotta change my diet, I gotta change my sleep, I gotta whatever.
Well, it's the hard route, but it also gives you all the power back.
Your power. You can say sovereignty as well, right? You're not reliant on these other pieces. And I mean, certainly in my experience, it's the most rewarding. And you get power and you get freedom, and it's the freedom that comes with responsibility, right? Because now,
I was gonna say freedom through discipline.
Whenever you decide, like, oh, I'm taking responsibility for this. Okay, well, I can't really blame other people now. I can't say that doctor, even if the history is, I thought this doctor was going to do something for me and they didn't. Okay, well, I can be mad at them, or I can figure it out for myself.
Still doesn't change anything for you and your body if you're mad at them and you're stacking biochemicals on top of themselves. It always comes back to you. You have to live with yourself.
Yes.
So like my hips when I'm meditating still scream at me. It's like the most annoying thing.
Do you sit on the pillow?
If I'm in yoga, like a class, I will, just so I can get through it.
Right.
But I would like to be able to not sit on the pillow. But the flexors are so tight. And I do a good amount of extension. I don't actually know why that popped up in that. But those lingering things that have happened for years, like I should really do something focused and dedicated to try to either figure out if they're compensating, which I'm sure they are, or if I'm just doing something repetitive on a daily basis. Like I do a lot of driving, so they're always crunched. Even with however much extension, the opposite I do. It's an everyday thing. It never really goes away, and it's a constant reminder that I always have to pay attention, take responsibility for how my body is telling me it is.
And I hear things like that as somebody saying, oh, I've done, and I understand it's a meditation position, right? But you're saying, like, I've done yoga, and I've done this, and I've experienced this. How long?
It's been a bit, like 7, 8 years.
7, 8 years. Yeah, it's like, always noticed that in this position. And so, at times it's like, okay, hey, like, is what you're doing working for you? Right? And it can take some people some time to realize that some things that they were doing, like yoga, I mean, that happens for a number of clients, is they'll do some sessions with me or with Carrie, with an FP practitioner, and then they'll go to yoga, and I've had people literally come back to me like, So in yoga, I was told to do this and this, but that seems to literally disconnect the body in the way that we've specifically been working on. Like, how does yoga, how do these two like fit? Well, like they really don't, because I'm sure there's probably some yoga teachers out there, right, who are better and keep the body connected, but like the general thing about the positions and the exercises and the movements are not really gonna like.
That's been my experience. That's why I don't go that much, and I find the presence work and the breath work far more impactful.
Right.
But whenever someone's like, "Why don't you go to yoga more?" I think you benefit because I feel more disconnected, and it actually cripples me for longer than an intense weightlifting session. Just that static hold isometric.
Yeah.
And I don't get what I wanted out of it. So I will either get the presence and the breathing, although if I'm trying to keep up with the instructor, sometimes I don't even do that. So it's a weird combo, but I've never once felt more fully synchronized and connected after yoga. Very strange. And that's probably, maybe that's a more masculine thing, but probably not.
No. Like Carrie will tell a story. She did whenever she used to be a yoga teacher, and she certified people. She did her RYC 200, and she did like an FP thing one morning, a little workout, and felt some things. She went to yoga class that night and really felt everything, the work she just done, being unwound, undoing it. She went home and she cried because she knew that was her last yoga class ever. Like, and just done. So something that had been for a period of her life, like her, like, basically a huge part of her personality, right? Who she was and her community and all these things. There are fantastic things about it, like in the community, right? In the presence, in the mindfulness. Like, those are fantastic things. And at this point in time, like, there's really not functional patterns gyms or something else where you can go and you can get those same things, but get the movement piece right as well. So that's part of it with what we do is before beginning of our classes, we do some little check-ins with everybody. Hey, let's come into our body right now. Let's take a moment. Let's arrive here before we start just like getting at it, and then having a community. And those things could be super hard to give up whenever they become like part of your routine. You've done them for years. You know these people. They're your friends. And then they say like, "Why did you stop doing yoga? Why are you telling me yoga's bad for me?" Like all these things. And at the end of the day, for me, I leave it up to other people to decide, right? Like you get to live your life, right? And that's the great thing. You're gonna do what you want to do. If you're gonna come to me and say, "I want these things now," it's like, okay, let's talk about it, right? Because my whole job is to get you what you want,
right?
And it might take some awareness of some things that you're doing that are hindering, limiting, or just straight up keeping you from actually getting what you want.
Yeah, the tie into identity is so tricky for making. It might seem like a small change to someone, but it's actually quite monumental. And it's that whenever people tie in what they do to their identity rather than treating things as movement practices or some sort of practice that serves them for a time.
Right.
And then at some time it may no longer serve you. Same thing with food.
Totally.
Like, things change, and tying them into your identity is a recipe for disaster because there is nothing that is constant for the most part. Like, other than you have to live in your body. And even then, if you get into an accident and you lose capability of something, then people have to struggle with their identity again because it's just a really hard thing to change because it's so embedded. Yeah, just all of those practices, especially if they're years old. I wouldn't want to go through that, or I try to not put myself in a position where I have to go through that again, like the running.
Right.
I'm just like, I am a tennis player. I am a runner. And
right.
you can no longer do that, and you're just like floundering a little bit because your core just got shaken.
Yeah. I've been there many times where that it's like, what? I thought I was this, and now no more. And in some ways, it's also the most beautiful process to go through, because then you really start to learn, right, who you are and how, right, you're not these things.
Not the things you do.
Right, you're not the things you do.
Yeah.
And you're not defined and limited in these ways that, we commonly put ourselves in these in boxes, right? We create these containers for ourselves, right? That no one is forcing us to be in, but for some reason we decide that that's gonna be the thing.
They're comfy. They provide a good amount of stability and maybe a little ego trip in there at some point.
And some of this is, especially as you're making transitions, is healthy, right? Like, some of these things you can't navigate, you can't make these jumps without, if you're leaving some identity behind, at least for now, you maybe need to borrow some other new identity, right? And try it. And especially as you're changing, like, that is the time whenever it's like flickering back and forth. It's like, I think about it in engineering terms. Whenever you turn like a light switch, the flow of electricity goes, it's not just like on or off. That's what the resulting state is. But if you look at the graph, a lot of times you're going to have, and it's been so long since I've been actually an engineer, but you have like overdamped, underdamped, critically damped. Of what that is going to affect is, whenever you flip the switch to this new state, do you overshoot, then undershoot, then overshoot, then undershoot, then overshoot, and then finally arrive at the state?
Yeah.
Or I think critically damped is you just take real slow progress, and so it takes longer, but you're just always moving up until you get there. And so as you're navigating to this new way of being, like, you're gonna overshoot, you're gonna undershoot, or maybe you're the person who just like, it's just nice and slow and steady. You're the tortoise, right? But just like that process of reaching a new way of being, a new state. I like the word state as well, because that also directly translates to the engineering, right? And so it's also just through all of this, I'm sure, like how my brain works, how it thinks, and
our brains work similarly. So it's also weird to me how many engineers. So I'm IT engineer, minor in electrical. How many of that type of person, my farming partner too, electrical, how many engineers move into biomechanics, movement, and or farming, specifically, those things? I don't understand why, other than it's the engineering of the natural world and of the human form.
I think some of it is, at least for me growing up, I didn't really know that, when I was growing up, this modality wasn't a public company, a thing yet. But we didn't know that these things existed, right? And so as adults, we've been exposed to like, oh, well, actually, like, that's the way I want to use this way of thinking, right? I'm going to take that over here. I was just told, and for me, hey, you just go to college and you get a degree and you get a job, right? That's just what you do. And so that's just what I thought. That's what you did. And so what I did. And then it's like, oh, I did that. Okay, this isn't actually what I wanted.
Right.
But there's a reason I did that, right? There's some part of me that has some aptitude or some proclivity, right, to think this way or to do whatever. And so I still want to do that, but it's something that, and some of it as well as like the lifestyle, right? And
it's true.
And so it's like, I don't want to be sitting at a desk the whole day, right? I want to be up and moving around, and so seeing that, how these different pieces.
Yeah, how you best feel most alive, so to speak, in your day, and you're just like, engineering is not when I feel most alive in my day, right? And it's not worth it to do that for 8 hours. And then get to play with 4, maybe, if I'm lucky, good ones where I actually feel like I used the day in the way I wanted to after. Yeah, it's a tricky transition, but it's well worth it.
Yeah, I've made 3 or 4 career transitions, and I'm 29, and I'm talking about like completely different, like not related, and like all good jobs as well. It's, I was in. Every time I left, I was in a good situation. I wasn't being asked to leave. Like, I was always being told not to leave. Right? I was like, hey, how can we keep you? And it's like, I'm just like, I got to try something else. Like this isn't it. And I imagine for a while I've got, it'll be a while since I make a career transition. In some ways, also, I'm whenever you find something that you're like really passionate about and you love, something like for me and functional patterns and working with the body, right? Like there's so many layers. I just want to keep peeling the onion back. And in some ways, I'm tired of digging like shallow holes.
Ooh.
Right? Like I want to dig a deep hole. Like I don't want to just like run all over the place, have a scattered mind, and like, well, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. Like I want to develop myself into something. Like I want to form and shape myself and continue to hone the craft. And at some point, I'm sure I'll be asked to evolve it in some way, right? And whenever that's the time, that'll be the time. But that will come because of the depth, right, of what I have dug versus just trying to be everywhere,
right?
And kind of do a little bit of.
That's such a great way of putting it. Yeah, the same, not so disparate careers, but IT was the disparate one,
right?
Technology, and then everything I do now. There's different careers, but they all hint on regeneration.
Right.
So health coaching, farming,
yes,
water. They're all
totally
regeneration and lifestyle. And
yes, like there's something there, like where it all is. It's all together.
Yeah,
right.
They're a web, and they're all connected with health and regeneration. Yeah, which is why if I get bored with one, then I'd focus a little more time on the other, and then I regret doing that and go back to the other one. But all the work still builds that deep hole, deep foundation.
Yeah, because I mean, like what our whole business name. It's like we're part of it, but we know like the food is such a big part of it, with the water, the community, right? All these things that are important. I mean, even people who have deeper understanding. I don't know, like I'd like say like therapists, but even if people just understand how life works or how the mind works or how people navigate emotional patterns, right? Like that's super important too, right? And like that's to me part of regeneration is working with somebody to help you understand what's going on with you and learning how to navigate, right, all of that, and just having that ecosystem.
Yeah, the self-discovery spills over into all aspects.
Totally.
So even if you're just focusing on the body, it will never just
Yes.
stay in the body.
Yeah,
You have to. Emotions will come up, mainly because there is no disparate system in the body. Like
Exactly.
It's like
all connected.
Emotions are all biochemicals. They're going to get stored. So whatever you do, if you think it's an embodied issue, it's going to tie into everything.
Yeah.
And you will have to deal with it everywhere.
And that's why I love talking with a lot of my clients who are therapists, who are acupuncturists, who are body workers, right? All these different things, because sometimes our language is a little bit different. And so, acupuncturists will say, oh, my liver 12 or something like that. I don't know if that's the right. That is right. I was doing that. That's related to my breathing, and you just have me working on this because you saw, I breathe this, not that way. And my breath is limited. Like that's so great. I was doing that this week. Right. It's like it's all connected, and even emotions. Like I have people just absolutely break down and cry, like in here, and not because I'm yelling and screaming at them, right? It's because their body is it's a lot of times coming to a point, to a movement where there's some sort of memory or something that's stuck inside it, and physically confronting it, and then physically moving through it, right? And so sometimes one session, if it feels like a wall, there's tears, you can't do anything. Come back next session, it's a lot smoother. There's so much less of a block there, and I mean, Nowdy's talked a lot about it recently, about like how like generational trauma, like stored in our bodies, the way that we move. Well, to like really let that stuff go, our body has to be the physical representation of that, right? And so to have more alignment in the spine, to move better, right? To wake up basically the entire body, entire system, some of the things that are more dormant in you, like that's healing on a really, really deep levels. That is, it's just not, at least in terms of looking at it as the way that you run, kind of hold yourself. It's not very mainstream yet. Like I hear people talk about, of course, posture and standing and things like that, but like and because it is how you hold yourself. That's like biomechanics. It's not just the way that you stand, walk, run, and throw. It's the way that you move through the world. Right.
On a almost metaphysical level.
Yes. Yeah. And so like, just I see people's confidence just like flow up. Like I'll make an adjustment on their neck, and their whole energy will just like literally all of a sudden just exude confidence. And they've been like in this little shell, and it's because they've been actually compressing their neck, and it's actually been kind of painful, but they didn't even really know that because that's just what it was. And then, but there's actually all these other things that are tied to it, and so I mean, for me, it's like an honor to work with people in that to because it's like my job to see how somebody can show up more fully for themselves.
Yep.
Right? It's like, oh, you're actually holding yourself back here. Let's show you how to do this. You get this stuff working together. You're going to be flowing.
Yeah.
And just I know my own transformation over the time. I even see the clients I work with now, just like, especially younger men, I find, because that's also what I resonate with.
Right.
And gone through this experience as a younger man, like, so different, right? And it's like as you walk the path, you have to exude like some different characteristics, and maybe or you've had before, or to a new level than you had before. Discipline, patience, resilience, right? And you have to have them along the way, and then it's like both the path and the result get you like to a new level, right? Of showing up. That. And that part is true for anything, right? Like if you're really going to get some goal that is really important, that matters, like that's true across the board. Yeah. And then with this type of work, like that's going to completely change the way that you show up in your entire life and physically hold yourself, your confidence, and where you speak from, even like do you speak kind of timidly, kind of up from the higher chest, kind of from the throat. Things maybe get stuck. You speak more from the belly, more fully, like more energy, commitment, conviction, passion, right? Like
if you're not grounded as a dude, it is amazing the tonality change.
Oh,
if you have a partner, they will pick it up immediately, and they're just like, "What did you do differently?" Because your voice deepened without you changing anything, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I went to the gym, or I'm actually grounded."
Right.
Like all of those things
Totally.
make a difference in how energy moves through you, and people notice.
Yeah.
They might not know why, but they notice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What other piece? Just thinking back, like Regenesis Collective, both Carrie and I have done a lot of personal work in different ways, and certainly one of our visions is having a space that can be used like for like men's work, for women's work, right? Have a space for people to show up to that greatest common denominator, right? And so I mean that's related to exactly what we're talking about, like the way you show up and being more grounded. I find I leave like a men's circle that I did, my voice is literally deeper, and it's like my belly is fuller, and like speaking from there, we didn't even eat,
right?
Yeah,
it doesn't take that long either. No. It takes like an hour of presence, and things radically shift. Yeah, I mean usually a little longer than that, but if you do a breath work with a group of people and it takes an hour, a lot of things happen in that hour. That you excavate a lot. You check in with your body in ways that I didn't fully understand were possible.
Right.
Just through breathing with other people. Yeah. Something as simple as that is as challenging as it gets. Like hardest work I've ever had might have been close to that.
Right.
Just very intense breathing for an hour.
Like staying with the difficult things.
Yeah, and like you said, I have good mentors and facilitators, and they know when it's getting tough, and they'll say, how you show up here is how you show up outside.
Right.
And as guys, that's a challenge enough where you're like, yep, you're right. Okay. Yeah, it's rough.
I always view like when I do the men's work stuff, and there's times I notice myself, I want to check out, right? And I'm like, all right, whatever. I guess I'm not really interested. It was like, this is practice, right? This is literally practice. Like, can I stay present? I notice myself checking out. Let me at least acknowledge that, and then let me see, okay, I'm checking out. Let me come back. Maybe there's something I'm trying to avoid here. Let me just face it, right? Let me see what it is. And that whole process. And to me, like, that's from something like the experiences like you're sharing, that to me, like that's the thing. It's like, this is not easy, but let's be with it, right? And let's see what's there, and let's not turn away. Let's not run and hide. Let's, especially from things that are painful. Like let's look at the painful thing and figure out.
Yeah, sitting in discomfort voluntarily is probably one of the most readying things that I found. Where I'll be there in that state, and I'll be like, I really not enjoying this, and I'll be like, yeah, but you're going to be here when you don't have the option to. So figure it out whenever everything is easy around you. You know, you're not starving. Every other thing is fine, other than you're uncomfortable. That's why I still go to yoga, because I sit in the discomfort and I'm like, just deal with it. Like, you're going to have something that you didn't choose, and you're going to be in a situation. Talking to myself. Yeah. And this is a wrap. This is just practice. Wrap it out. Figure it out. Yeah.
The piece, and this is also related to like the ice bath piece, is around, because we're going to start talking about like kind of masculinity and cultural things, and I certainly found that a big piece culturally that seemed to be tied to being male and masculinity was how much discomfort can you take, and using that as a point of pride, even if you're just beating yourself up and beating yourself down. And so that's also just always these things I always like to check in, and let's have some context, right? Like, are you being put yourself through discomfort just for discomfort's sake, or are you actually doing something that's going to help you, because there's some discomfort that's going to kind of wear you down. There's discomfort that's going to build you up.
Yeah, like running an ultramarathon or training for one will cripple a lot of people.
Yes.
And that's not a building you up thing.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of oxidative damage.
Yeah.
Some people take months to recover from those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stress, and Primal really harps on this. The beneficial, good, acute bouts of stress that help you become more resilient. Yeah. And then there's just the chronic stress, like chronic cardio. Some people tax their nervous systems and adrenals to the point where they'll just get sick consistently. Yeah. Yeah, not helping.
Yeah, no.
Right.
And so that's just a piece of it. It's like, in speaking of these cultural things, and part of our business as well is increasing awareness of what we are doing, as people, and that's what we want to know. Is like, hey, am I doing the thing that I actually want to be doing? Am I doing the thing that is actually getting me what I want, or am I doing it just because I was told, being a man is going in, freezing water for 2 hours, right? That's how you prove it. But even though after the fact you feel absolutely drained, and again, ice bath's the easy one to pick on. But I definitely had experiences in my life where I was doing things just to prove how tough I was, even though it was wearing me down, hurting me, like not serving me really in any way. And just to be like, oh man.
You're right. No, I know the feeling well. Yeah. Yeah, we have that. It's not necessarily helpful. A little bit of the shadow there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. When are your classes?
Yes.
And how many per week, and where can people find you?
Yes. So classes right now, just update our schedule to add another class. So basically we have about 6 classes a month. So it goes alternating weeks. We go on Monday, a Saturday, and the next week is a Wednesday. So Monday, Saturday at 10:30 a.m. And then the Wednesday class is at 5 p.m. Okay. And so then next week, Monday, Saturday, next week, Wednesday, Monday, Saturday, Wednesday, going that way. So that's what we have for now. As we continue to grow, we're going to continue to build out that class schedule. So find us on Instagram at the Regenesis Collective.
Okay.
Website, theregenesiscollective.com.
I'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Instagram is really good. Like there's a lot of movement patterns that people could probably practice just in front of a mirror, just that you guys demonstrate really well with just the synchronized throwing, and they don't look overly complex, although
there's always detail.
I was going to say, you might caution for doing it
per person. Yeah, so like some of the things, and definitely check out functionalpatterns.com, Functional Patterns Instagram. That's where you'll see like tons of the results, and that's what's highlighted by the company and by practitioners most, because that's what people care about, is like, hey, if you do these things, like here's what you can expect to get out of it. And there'll be some people doing some exercises on there. Yeah, definitely things worth trying it out and implementing things into your workout. For me, I was injured. It was easy for me to drop everything I was doing and go full on FP. I know that's for everyone that's not the case. Right? They have something that they're kind of more a lot of times more tied to, or what they do, and it's just what they just want to explore. It's something new. You don't know. You're not going to just drop everything and go necessarily do something you've never done without having a really good reason. A lot of times pain, but incorporating some things like a step press, step back row, and notice how you feel. Like it's going to help you. If your goal is to deadlift and squat, like that's going to help you do those things better. Actually, even though you might be confused about why for a bit, like it's gonna help you. And yeah, 10-week course, phenomenal. Find a functional powers practitioner near you.
Yeah.
Global. So
yeah. So we're in East Asheville, and I'll put I'll put everything in the show notes for everyone if you're interested.
Yep.
Anything else you want to leave people with?
I mean, just if you're experiencing chronic pain, you've kind of tried everything, nothing has worked for you, there's still something out there for you. It was certainly my experience. That's what I hear from my clients. Is most people come to me have tried everything, and nothing has worked for them. And then they come in one session, they're like, "This is different. This already feels better. I want more of this." Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love. Yeah.
That's why I do it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time, Scott.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex.